Saturday, and welcome to The Deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. It is Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. Can't believe it. Time's just flying by. We're about to be in summertime. And as always, Val Atkinson is here. However, we got a second banana. That'll be Cherelle James, who co-hosts Connections with me on Foxy 107, 104, the program that Val and I used to do together. Hey, folks, welcome to The Deal.
Good to be here.
Well, you know what? There's a lot to talk about. You know, we've been gone for the last 2 weeks, so let me explain that to folks why we've been gone. It was the third anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, so I was in Minneapolis taking care of some stuff. Throughout the program today, you'll see some clips from my trip to Minneapolis, and I'm working on a longer documentary on that trip. So stay tuned for that. Let people know about that. Also, just traveling in general for some other things that you'll see coming up in the coming weeks. So keep your eye out. Go to the deal with edclark.com. Make sure you subscribe, as you know, on any of the popular podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever. You can also catch us on YouTube, Facebook. So make sure you subscribe on one of those platforms. But without further ado, we got a lot to talk about, folks. And I want to do this first segment about the debt ceiling. Cherelle, you know, we talked about it a lot on Connections and how important it was going to be to reach the debt ceiling agreement. You're in the financial services business, and I know a lot of people were worried about that. So Val, I'm gonna let the lady start today. I'm going to go to Cherelle first. Cherelle, I know that you're on Alma Adams, Congresswoman Alma Adams' mailing list, and she sent out a letter about the debt ceiling. Can you tell us what Alma had to say about the agreement, and then we'll go from there?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna cheat and use my phone a little bit, so I make sure that I don't mince anybody's words up. She talked about, a big thing was, she started off her letter just saying that it was a tough vote, a very tough vote, taking on the debt ceiling bill. And ultimately, she voted yes to raise the borrowing limit and prevent the financial crisis, which I think was the goal of hopefully everyone, to figure out how do we do this and prevent the financial crisis. But it was at the cost of cuts to programs that are definitely going to hurt American families. And so her letter really was about, the debt ceiling using debt ceiling should not have been a way to hold the economy hostage, or in a way to run the country, right? That's no way to do it. And it hurts the standing in the world, and it could have really been dangerous for the effects of the American people. She moves on, talking about the bill that they sent to the Senate prevents the dangerous game of chicken for 2 years. And I love the way that she said that, in quote, chicken, right? We're not gonna play games with this. We're going to figure out something that, okay, we can move things forward. She does say she still preferred a clean bill, because we shouldn't have to manufacture a crisis and put everything from our federal benefits to your retirement portfolio at risk every time Congress wants to have a discussion about the budget. And so I commended her for that, definitely, because it's true. When we look at the benefits and our retirement portfolios, we work, you get to a certain age, you think you have what you need, and then it's at risk because we want to play chicken, so to speak. In a lot of ways. She closes this with saying that she's just continued to honor the work that's happening. Of course, Memorial Day has recently happened, and she gave honoring the heroes of each and every day, and the support that's left behind by those loved ones that are no longer here with us. But ultimately, having a devotion to the citizens, having a devotion to the country, and just knowing that, okay, yes, this is the way I voted. Yes, this is what's happened. But know that this is not the end. And I'll leave it kind of right there. And that's my summary at the end, not her words at the end. And so it was a very eloquent, and of course she addressed a couple other things in her letter, just, that were happening. but it was great to hear from, from Congresswoman to talk about, well, why did we go ahead and pass this, and what did this look like, and what were my concerns in that way. And so I appreciated that letter.
Yeah, Val, Alma makes a good point that it was a tough vote, right? I mean, I don't think if I were Joe Biden, I'd try to put myself in Joe Biden's seat. And Kevin McCarthy walks in the door, the first thing I would say, because I'm not Joe Biden, is, asshole, why are we at this point? Because you know that the economy is on the brink if we default. I think Kevin McCarthy knew he could not let there be a default. But is this what he did, just what he had to do to placate those people on that very far right that gave him the speakership? We went through those 15 rounds. I watched all 15 of them for him to become the speaker. And the Marjorie Taylor Greens and all those people who, would not vote for, couldn't get him over the hump until he made some deals. And probably one of the deals was to, take it to the mat on the debt ceiling, but he knew that he couldn't do that. So Val, tell me how Kevin McCarthy can, with a straight face, say that he's trying to help the American people when he knows that most of this debt is because of the tax cuts that they did for Donald Trump.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, Ed, when you talked about the amount of time and the number of rounds it took for him to become speaker, and the fact that they have something hanging over his head right now that any one member can go ahead and say, hey, we want to bring it to a vote as to whether you maintain your speakership or not. So he is in a precarious situation, to say the least about that. He knows which side his bread is buttered on. He knows what he's got to do to keep his job. So I think he went into this whole negotiation, and I hate to use that word. I think he went in knowing that he was playing a role. He's trying to suck up to the far right, at the same time do whatever he can to save the United States economy, the world economy, and to his party, if that can be done at this particular point. But I want to go back to something that you just said, and you talked about Representative Adams having a tough vote. Representative Jayapal, who is the chair of the Progressive Caucus within the Democratic Party, said she was going to vote no. She held up to her standards and those kinds of things because she knew that there were some things within this bill, within the negotiation, that was not good for some of the very people that helped Joe Biden become president of the United States. They voted for him because they were looking for help that they needed with things such as SNAP and TANF and all the other things that really matter for people who are below the poverty line. Now, having said that, how do we go forward and stop the bully from doing this every time there is a negotiation about the budget itself? One thing I learned growing up, Ed, is that bully on the playground, once you try to placate him, he'll be back again. Now, that's for sure. So something has to be done on the part of Biden and the Democratic Party to stop this once and for all. Not say we live to fight another day because we gave the bully only 3/4 of what he asked for, and we can fight another day. At some point, you've got to stop giving him what he wants and let him know that he can't come back again. It's not going to work because he'll come back time and time again until we do that.
Most definitely. I want to remind you, you're listening to or watching The Deal. I'm Ed Clark. That's Val Atkinson. Cherelle James is in with us today. Cherelle's been in as a co-host before. We're doing double co-host day today. So Val and Cherelle are here, and we're talking about the debt ceiling. And one of the things that's interesting to me, Val, is this whole notion about whether or not Joe Biden is competent. Could he negotiate against McCarthy, whatever? Clearly, he won this one. I want you to see a clip and then we'll talk about it. And then this is Kevin McCarthy talking about why he had to take the deal with
When
Biden.
I finally got to meet with the president, we couldn't talk about the entire budget. We couldn't talk about and look at places that we could have savings. We could only focus on 11% of the budget. But in that 11%, I respect anybody in the office. It's not an easy office to win. I understand what they're under. I just hope he doesn't sit back and ignore people when they want to work with you. I enjoyed working with his team. I enjoyed meeting with him. We're wide apart in a philosophy. We're wide apart
Val,
in the direction.
That's Kevin McCarthy, the speaker, the leader of the Republicans. And he says, well, I was kind of over a barrel. I couldn't do anything because Joe Biden wouldn't put this on the table, right? Well, Val, does that not mean that Joe Biden outplayed Kevin McCarthy? I mean, I keep hearing that Joe Biden's old, he can't do anything, he's senile or whatever. It looks like he got played to me. What do you think?
I agree. I agree. McCarthy, he has a lot of skills when it comes to maneuvering votes and playing around within their conference to get what he wants and those kind of things. In regular politics, at the legislative level, we call that being a whip. He's like the whip emeritus of any kind of legislative process. And he does good at that. But when it comes down to one-on-one, McCarthy is not strong when it comes to those kinds of things. And he could have seen Biden as a real challenge, somebody that goes back decades, knowing how to negotiate, knowing how to compromise, to get into bipartisanship and those kinds of things. I think he felt really like he was swimming upstream. He felt like he was in the ring with someone who far outweighed him in terms of experience, know-how, and capability. He wanted to keep his job. That was number one, and he knew how to do that. And number two, he wanted to make sure that he and his party was not held responsible for throwing the American economy over the cliff. So I think he was real scared, and he came out of this thing with a great more respect for Joe Biden than he had going in.
Yeah, I think he needs to respect Joe Biden a lot because he got his ass whooped. Cherelle, now we've talked about this. You're in the financial services kind of business too. And one of the things that I know we talked about was the worry on people's part about what their retirement was going to look like, what their savings going to look like, interest rates going up, maybe actually going into a depression and just bypassing a recession altogether. What have you heard on the street in your industry and in banking about this deal, if you've heard anything, or what were they really worried about going into this whole weekend?
I think number one, it was coming to some kind of agreement first, right? Because what was on the other side of that could have been a lot worse if there was no agreement at all. When we talk about the chairman for Treasury, they've been talking a little bit about delaying or not right now, not raising any rates for a little while, but they're not saying that they're not going to raise rates again this year. Right. They're still talking about raising rates again this year. And we're still kind of in a wait and see. And I think this played a little bit, a piece of that, along with, okay, now that this is done, all right, where's the economy still and what's happening? And so we still have that chance of inflation going up again for this year. And who knows, we're safe right now. It just went up. We're safe right now, but they're still looking at it. And so I think that's the thing that we have to think about when we talk about jobs, when we talk about, because your small business owners provide half of the labor force for the US. And inflation affects that, right? Affects that bottom line, that the amount of profit you have starts shrinking. And as that starts shrinking, I may not be able to hold on to the labor force that I have in that way. When we talk about as the rates for capital and lending have gotten extremely hard for people during this time. And so life is getting hard already. And so with this being said I think that now they're trying to sort out, okay, based on what was agreed upon, what's happening, we'll see coming out, what does that mean and where do we go from there as we move forward. So there's been small talks here and there, but I think in the next week, being that this just happened, we'll be able to see how others are starting to move forward in the industry and just for the nation.
Well, I'm glad there was a budget, debt ceiling deal, and there was a lot less acrimony over in the Senate. I think they're a little more adult over in the Senate, even though there's some people over there I don't like, Joe Manchin. But we won't talk about that now because he was on the right side of history here. Look, I hear some music in the background. That means we need to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to pin Cherelle and Val down on Trump DeSantis, what that race is going to look like. Or is Donald Trump going to be in jail and it won't matter? Anyway, stay right there. We'll be right back after this business.
Hi, my name is Cherelle James, and I am CEO and co-owner of My Local CFO. We provide outsourced fractional CFO services, and what that means is that as a business owner, you are good at what you do, but sometimes not so good when it comes to the numbers. And so we handle that for you. We help you understand what your numbers are saying so that you can make better strategic decisions, as well as help you budget and forecast so you know where you're going for the future. So the client experience here at My Local CFO, from the time they call us or they walk through our door asking us about the services that we have, is a family-oriented one that we want them to be at ease and relaxed, because we know when you're dealing with your finances, that's a stressful place.
Hello, my name is Derek James. I am the co-owner of My Local CFO. A client may need My Local CFO services because we're kind of the bridge between the average bookkeeper and your yearly visit with your CPA.
My Local CFO works with our clients not only to meet their needs, but to exceed their needs.
If you're just starting a business, there is no way possible that you can stay on top of the financials, take care of the marketing, perform the work. You need a competent team that can help you to stay on top of your financial situation. My Local CFO is it.
My Local CFO fits a niche that's in today's small business climate. People need good accounting, but they don't need full-time accountants.
My Local CFO, financial solutions for a stronger future.
North Carolina. Yeah. How's everybody doing? All the beautiful folks. I'm Thomas, one of George's cousins. His dad, George Perry Floyd Sr., was my uncle. Roger Floyd, George Perry Floyd's brother. Ike Floyd's around here somewhere. Some of y'all heard him sing and everything. But we're just so happy to be here and happy to see everybody out here supporting, because Aunt Angela, you're doing it, girl. Paris, you're doing it. The family, you're doing it. And the reason why the family is doing it is because of all of you all and your support for what's going on. Yes, we lost a loved one, but we all lost George Floyd Jr. We love him. He's still with us because of you. And thank you for this time.
Now it's quiet. We want to welcome you to this historic Twitter Spaces event, and more broadly, a first in the history of social media. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce two individuals who've done more to loosen the... Sorry about that. We've got so many people here.
So let's see.
So they just keep crashing, huh?
Well, it's certainly an incredible honor to have Governor DeSantis make this stark announcement.
Yo, it was like 20 minutes of that. Trump had the golden escalator. Ron DeSantis got the world's most embarrassing 404 error. Over 20 minutes of technical difficulties that sounded like this. That is how the Florida governor's big entrance in the Republican presidential primary will be forever remembered.
Back to the second segment of the deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. Val's cutting up in the background as usual. Cherelle James is in with us today. It is the 3rd of June, and we just finished talking about the debt ceiling deal and a little bit about whether or not Joe Biden is the winner in this. I think the American people are the real winners in this because we got a deal. I don't like the deal. I finally got a chance to read through it, Val. I don't like it for the fact that it does put some burden on some folks, especially some older Americans who may lose benefits for like food stamps and stuff like that because they can't meet the work requirement. However, in the long run, it was better than complete default. So we'll put a pin in that. On the way back in, you saw some clips from the George Floyd event up in Minneapolis, but you also saw my favorite candidate on the Republican side, Ron DeSantis, whatever his name is, trying to announce his run for presidency, Val, with Elon Musk. And it was a complete fiasco. They tried to do it online, and you would think they'd be able to do it online because Elon Musk is supposed to be this smart internet genius, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He now owns Twitter. It was on the Twitter platform. They had all kinds of technical difficulties. That doesn't mean that, it's DeSantis' fault. I mean, but I think DeSantis is stupid for doing it. So let's start there, Val. Ron DeSantis is running for president. He says he wants to make America like Florida. So let's start there. Ron DeSantis, give me his odds on being the nominee and what his campaign is going to look like if he takes and does exactly what he's been doing in Florida.
Ron DeSantis' odds of becoming the nominee of the Republican Party are near zero, in my opinion. And I'll tell you why. Donald Trump has a hold on a certain segment of the Republican Party that nobody can shake at this particular point. And that hole is large enough so that it really doesn't matter who the opponent happens to be, as long as Donald Trump has the whole of what I used to call the old Tea Party. All the other factions, they come up short. They come up lacking. You mentioned something about whether or not Donald Trump may be in jail or not, or even eligible to run. When we look at the Constitution and those kinds of things, that's not going to stop some people from still nominating him. I mean, he could be indicted. He could be incarcerated. That would not stop him from being nominated for the presidency out of the Republican Party. So I want people not to hold out hope that maybe some indictment or some conviction could stop him from doing whatever. Now, they won't make provisions for him to take the oath of office out of his jail cell. That's for sure. But I don't think DeSantis has the wherewithal to knock a guy like Trump off of that pedestal. He'll need considerable help. And I mean something more than an indictment, something more than even a conviction at the lower level. Now, if he gets a conviction at the federal level for his handling of classified documents, for an example, or even worse, for his conspiratorial role in 1-6, that could shed a light on some of the moderate Republicans, and they could mass a campaign against him. But the problem that DeSantis still has to do with the other candidates that are still in the race, and whether or not a large enough volume can be attained to knock Trump off. Because right now we have 6 to 8 other new candidates that are going to be in the race within the next couple of days. And the door still is not closed. The more candidates that sign up, the better it's going to be for Donald Trump. So DeSantis has an uphill battle that I don't think that he can survive.
Well, you know, one of the things, Val, you bring up all these other candidates that are wanting to join in. Cherelle, I want to get you in on this. Let's look at the clip. This is Tim Scott, our favorite Black Republican senator. Oh, he's our only Black Republican senator. Our favorite Black Republican senator announcing his intent to run.
Joe Biden and the radical left are attacking every single rung of the ladder that helped me climb. And that's why I'm announcing today that I'm running for president of the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you. You see, they're attacking our American values, our schools, our economy, and our security. But not on my watch. Not on my watch. That won't work. I cannot stand by while this is done to America. She's done too much for me. Our nation, our values, and our people are strong, but our president is weak. Thank you. Let's see if this one works. All right. Good catch. But under Joe Biden, our nation is not a nation in decline. But under Joe Biden, we have become a nation in retreat. Retreating from our heritage and our history. Retreating from personal responsibility and hard work. Retreating from strength and security. Even retreating from religious liberty and the worship of God himself. They say opportunity in America is a myth, and faith in America is a fraud. But the truth of my life disproves their lies.
Okay, Cherelle. So Tim Scott has a high-pitched voice whenever he gets excited. So that's one thing we do know about him that we probably didn't know before. He keeps talking about this thing that anybody can be anything in America, which we all tell our children. But he keeps on with this whole notion that America is not a racist country, that, you know, everything's fine and dandy, and that he has a real opportunity to become the Republican nominee for president. Do you want me to call Tim Scott, or are you going to call him and tell him, Cherelle, that he's living on another planet?
You know, sometimes you can't tell anybody, they just got to learn for themselves that they're on another planet.
So Tim Scott, though, seriously, Cherelle, thinks that he's going to be the nominee. But so does Chris Christie. And so does, pick a person, right? And I think Val set it up pretty well, that the more people that jump in, the more likely it is that Donald Trump is going to be the guy, right? Because of the way electoral, the following. He has the most solid following. He has to talk about Ron DeSantis eating pudding with his fingers and stuff like that, and make fun of the other candidates. I'm sure he's going to make white jokes about Chris Christie. He's going to make jokes about Tim Scott and all these other people, and say that Nikki Haley, he doesn't even know who she is, even though she was the UN ambassador. You know how he does. Yeah. And he's likely to be able to still get by. Do you have any sense, though, Cherelle, of why it is that these people are so committed to Donald Trump?
I do. I think that I really think that he says what they're thinking. Period. He says, and that's why we saw a lot of people come out the woodwork, like, where did all these people come from? You know, because for a long time, it deals with the society that we're in today. So you remember back in the day, you was watching your stories or watching a movie and it get to a certain point, then the door closed and it goes to commercial and that's it. And we've gotten so far to, we can say and see and do anything, anytime. You know, there's a certain time at night that you saw certain things, but just society-wise, as my grandmother calls it, couth. We just had some couth about us. And I think that he's come, one, he has money, right? And so he's always had some type of fame. We had the TV show, and even before that, even rappers have talked about Donald Trump, you know, let me in, I've got some money now, let me in, that type of thing. So he's a household name, not able to touch him quite, right? But he was that household name. Then he ran, and we found out a lot more about him than maybe what we knew. We knew some things, but a lot more. And it just drew. He is great at knowing who his audience is and only talking to them. And the more you talk to your audience, the more you draw them in, because their hearts are the same. And that's why I feel like he's got the loyal following that he has, because he's never wavered from it. One thing about him, you know exactly where he stands, right? You know exactly where he stands, period. I don't care, you know, what side you sit on, you know exactly where he stands. And either you like it or you don't like it. Well, it's easy to follow or not follow. It's all of that in the middle and in between you get with all the other candidates. Because, yeah, he's good at this, but not good at this. And yeah. And so you get kind of that medium space. But Trump is hot or cold. There's no difference, you know, and I think that's it.
Yeah, you know, Val, well, first I want to remind you guys you're listening to or watching The Deal. Again, subscribe on your fine podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Anchor, wherever you get your fine podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're trying to deconstruct this thing, Val. There's going to be a 10, 11, maybe people running by this time next week, like you said. On the Republican side, Joe Biden doesn't have any opposition to this point, and I don't think it's likely to happen that he will have any unless something catastrophic happens. And we already said DeSantis, whatever his name is not ready for prime time. He kind of reminds me of Bobby Jindal. You remember when they kept trying to pump him up from Louisiana, and then he gets on TV and he folds like a cheap suit. Who's going to emerge, though, Val? Is Asa Hutchinson going to be the one that seems like he's reasonable and rational, or Nikki Haley? Who do you pick as the person that's going to be up there with Trump when we get down to the final 2 or 3?
I think you've called the two that I would put 1 and 2, Asa Hutchinson, Nikki Haley. You got to talk about Christie. And of course, anybody's guess after that. People at the other end of the spectrum are people like Tim Scott that really don't have a chance at all. I think he may come to the realization that they've been sort of playing with him, toying with him all along. To try to make people think that they're not racist because they have Tim Scott. But I would go with Asa Hutchinson. He talks a good, moderate game. So if enough of Trump supporters, DeSantis supporters break away and decide they want to try to salvage the Republican Party and not to go the way of the Whig Party in 1854, that brought about the Republican Party, and Republicans are on the verge of that happening to them. They could go the way of the Whig Party. So Asa is the guy, in my mind, that could lead them back from the brink and save the Republican Party and make it more sane, make it appeal to people who are more rational. So I don't think that he could win against Biden. Let me go that far again. But he's the guy, if they were smart, they'd look at him more so than any of the rest I think he would have a better chance. He would poll higher and do better against Biden than any of the other candidates that have thrown their hats in the ring so far.
Yeah, that's been my assessment of it so far, Val, is that it's going to have to be somebody that can calm all this down. I mean, there's like a constant whirlwind of turmoil around Donald Trump. DeSantis wants to be famous, and then the rest of them. Christie's run before. He didn't get much shine when he ran before, and Nikki Haley. It may be an opportunity for the Republicans to actually, support a woman for something. Well, so she has a shot. She is articulate, like they're fond of saying about us. She's articulate and well spoken, and so she may be able to, at least engage audiences and have people, behind her or whatever. I don't know about and Cherelle. I'm really interested in what this Republican nomination process is going to look like. I hope it's a clown show. Well, it already is a clown show because they got an orange guy running, but it's going to be a clown show from my perception of it. I'm not sure what's going to emerge with all these legal cases that Donald Trump has that he still has to deal with. There is one other piece before we take a break that I do want to talk about Donald Trump specifically, is that on the documents case, apparently there's some tapes. So let's look at this clip and then we'll talk about it.
Federal prosecutors may have their hands on one of the most incriminating pieces of evidence yet as they continue their investigation into Trump's handling of classified documents. A source familiar with the matter confirmed to NBC News that Special Counsel Jack Smith's office has obtained an audio recording that features Donald Trump discussing a classified document relating to attacking Iran that he kept after leaving the White House. But what makes it even more incriminating, the July 2021 recording also features Trump acknowledging that he knew that the document was classified. The source also added that the grand jury investigating Trump has heard this recording. And new reporting has revealed that after learning of the tape, federal prosecutors quickly issued a subpoena to Trump's legal team in order to obtain the document. Trump's team, however, was unable to locate any such document.
So guys, it appears that when Mark Meadows was working on his book, somebody was recording some stuff, and Donald Trump says, "Hey, by the way, I got this document about Iran, but I can't show it to you because I can't declassify it." Fully aware that he couldn't declassify documents after he left. So, Cherelle, I'll start with you. Is this just another one of those dumb things where we knew that he couldn't declassify stuff after he left? He just said it because he could say it.
I think it was Trump being Trump.
And we'll just leave it
there.
we'll leave it at that. Guess what? I hear some music again. So that means it's time to take another break. When we come back, though, I got something serious I want to talk to you guys about. I want to talk about the right wing, and I won't even say Republican anymore. The right wing's war on everything. It's Pride Month. So, of course, they're against LGBTQ. They're having poems and books removed from school in Florida. You name it, they're doing it in the name of whatever, I don't know, Americanism, whatever. We'll talk about that when we get back after this message.
What's wrong?
Nothing.
You sure? You good? Now you know you can talk to me.
I really do need to talk.
Yeah, I'm here for you. I'm glad we can do this. Come here. Come here. It's okay.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good, babe.
You want to talk about it?
No, I told you I was good. You can sit down.
Come on.
Okay. I got a lot going on right now. I'm just kind of stressed out.
Okay. A lot of people, they hear George Floyd and they hear Minneapolis, and they don't have any idea why George would be in Minneapolis in the first place. Let's start out with just some basic facts that I think people get wrong about this. I think a lot of people get the impression that he was just a wanderer and just sort of happened to be in Minneapolis. Talk to me about the family and how close you guys are, because I can see that from the interaction. I know Thomas and some other people in the family already. But clearly, George was here because he had people here for support. Can you talk about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's wrong. It's totally wrong. But he was a wonder. He wasn't. He had connections here in Minneapolis area. He had did a lot of with community work in Houston, and he made a lot of important connections with outreach programs through pastors. So he got a very good connection with a pastor, and he was looking for help, a good treatment center, because he had challenges with his sobriety. And so through those connections, he was able to find an incredible treatment program that he came and got involved in.
Media after the company highlighted its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, stating on its webpage that, quote, Chick-fil-a Inc.'s commitment to being better at together means embedding diversity, equity, and inclusion in everything we do. Some mentioned the company's vice president of DEI, Eric McReynolds. He's been in that role since 2021, and the webpage is not new. But with the debate over DEI squarely in the middle of the public's mind, many are questioning if the backlash is starting to go too far.
And welcome back to our third and final segment of the deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. That's Cherelle James and Val Atkinson in today on June 3rd, 2023. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff: debt ceiling, Joe Biden and his victory over Kevin McCarthy, at least, titular victory, Val, right? Because there were some losses. We did have to give away some stuff. But in the end, Biden wins. We talked about Trump and DeSantis, and Cherelle couldn't even bring herself to say much about Donald Trump. I don't know if Cherelle knows the rule, Val. When we talk about Donald Trump, we have to have video of Donald Trump on the show. So, it's hard to talk about Donald Trump. Seriously. And then of course, all the Republicans who want to ascend to the throne and become the leader of the Republican Party, which I'm not sure is a good thing. Val mentioned the death of the Whig Party. If you go back to the deal with edclark.com, look for a piece that I wrote like 3 years ago. And it's about the death of the Republican Party. I was predicting that they were going to go the way of the Whigs. So maybe I was prescient, right, Val? So anyway, on the way in, we saw a clip about some people on the right, Cherelle, who say that Chick-fil-a is woke because they have an office of DEI. Now, we know Chick-fil-a is closed on Sunday. We know they don't support LGBTQ rights. We know that they are not known for being anywhere near liberal, but they do have a DEI office because they say they need to be in tune with their customers because all kind of people eat there. Why in the world are they so afraid of whatever they define as woke? But now you can put in DEI to that. What's the problem here for people on the right? I thought they claimed to be Christians, right? So explain to me the Christianity of the right who can't even get behind Chick-fil-A having a DEI office, Cherelle.
Well, Ed, I don't know if you remember, but Christianity was used for slavery. So I'm just going to leave that one right there. But say, when we talk about DEI, I think we've made it a black and white issue. And that's purely what we've made it, when DEI is so much more than just race, right? It deals with disabilities. It deals with diversity in the sense of who's on your team, making sure that you have everything that you need for a company to move forward with good growth, healthy growth. And so diversity could be in skills and things of that nature. So when we talk about DEI, and when you really sit down with a DEI person, yes, race plays a part in that, but DEI is so much bigger than just race. And so just like a lot of things that come up on the right side, they pick the one thing that they know their base is against, the one thing outside of something, and taking something that's whole and good and just saying, no, it's only about this. And they've made it a black and white thing is really what they've made it. They've made it even when we talk about the LG, I'm gonna get in trouble. LG, help me out, Ed.
BTQ.
Okay, because I always forget. LGBTQ. Okay, don't beat me up. Please don't beat me up. LGBTQ, even when we talk about that, that's a diversity, right, in a different way. And just embracing people of who they are, period. Just embracing people is what DEI is all about. And I think that it challenges them in the sense of they don't want to know about those things. I want to stay in my bubble, and I only want to be in my bubble, and I only want to deal with people in my bubble. And if that's the case, then I have to be against everything else because it may penetrate my bubble.
Yeah. I hear that. Val, in that case, we've talked about this a lot. Some white people are scared of losing whiteness in America. Back to Cherelle's point, they see things just binary. It's either good white, bad black, right? Anything we add to the discussion, if we're talking about Black history, we're talking about other people who come in, allowing people to have a drag show, Pride Week, you name it, right? It's this fear that they have that they're going to lose something, right? It's a zero-sum game. If I get, then I don't. If you get, I don't have, right? There's not enough for everybody. It's this lack mentality that they have that somehow there's a finite set of resources and I can't share it with anybody. So in light of all of that, Val, we know that people like DeSantis that are running really far to the right, like Trump, who run really far to the right, they're going to be dependent on those people to, stay in line. But there are people in the middle, and we've had this discussion also a lot, Val. Is there any real middle people, though? I mean, is there anybody that we can convince that these other people are just some clowns? Don't listen to them. I want your vote. Is there anything that the Democrats can do to go to those mythical middle people, or are they phantasms? They don't really exist.
I think you hit it on the head when you said mythical middle people, because things have gone off the rails so far in terms of the two parties being against one another. We are more partisan now than I think we've been since the Civil War. And what is happening is that right-wingers are taking advantage of that, the partisanship that we are all experiencing. And they're taking advantage of it by saying, these are the bad guys. Of course, we are the good guys. They were looking for one clean avenue, Ed, and we gave it to them. They came up with the word woke. To them, that means everything that they are against. And they putting everything under that umbrella. The race, ethnicity, you can talk about gender, identification, orientation. It doesn't matter. It's all woke. And they've painted woke as being a bad word. Books, you talk about Amanda and the kind of things that she's done. Books that you can't read. Get to Disney. Words you can't say. Don't say gay. Everything that they can to put under that umbrella of woke, to really say, this is what we're about. Everything under this umbrella is bad. We are not there. We are the good guys. So they're trying to polarize us even more than we're polarized already. But that mythical, as you called it, Ed, middle that used to be has shrunk so violently that is nobody there. And I think Democrats are wasting their time. I think they're running down after red herrings when they try to appeal to that mythical middle that's really not there, trying to get them to come to some sane position and to say that I'd rather be with the adults in the room. And that's fine, but these people didn't come to that. Who was it, Ed, that said, you can't move a person off of position using logic, that they arrived at their position illogically? That still makes a lot of sense to me. You can't go after these mythical middle people with logic to try to tell them this is where things really are, and it's a bunch of fool's gold that you're chasing. So I think what Democrats need to do is to come off of that bandwagon and really start looking at their base. Every day there are more people turning 18 years old, every day. And we've got to start talking about getting after these young folks, encouraging them to register to vote, make sure they understand the power of the vote, give them pathways to vote, and make GOTV a four-letter word that's good.
Yeah,
get out the vote.
Yeah,
that's what Democrats need to be concentrating on.
Yeah, because every time I see some little old lady, Cherelle from Terre Haute, Indiana, and they put a microphone in her face, and she's at a Trump rally, and she says something completely off the wall, like space aliens, or JFK Jr. is coming back, or Donald Trump is saving the world from pedophiles, or whatever crazy stuff they say. I can't imagine trying to knock on that lady's door in Terre Haute, Indiana, and tell her that, hey, I got a good deal for you. Vote for a Democrat because he's going to make sure you get your Social Security check. He's going to make sure we don't default on the debt. He's going to do this or that. That's not going to move them at all, right? Because they believe that JFK Jr. is going to come back. They believe that Donald Trump is still the president of the United States. I mean, there's a very significant core group of people who won't move off of that no matter what you say to them. Before we run out of time, I got one other clip. This is Amanda Gorman in some stuff about why they're trying to ban her poems in Florida.
Access to the poem Amanda Gorman recited at Biden's inauguration has been limited at an elementary school in Miami-Dade County after just one parent complained about the poem's contents. Now, according to documents obtained by the Florida Freedom to Read Project, Miami-Dade County Public Schools moved Gorman's The Hill We Climb book to the middle school section of the library after a parent filed a formal objection. Now, the district says in a statement, quote, "It was determined at the school that The Hill We Climb is better suited for middle school students, and it was shelved in the middle school section of the media center. The book remains available in the media center," the statement reads.
Now the parent responsible for making the complaint has been identified by the Miami Herald as Daly Salinas. Back in March, Salinas, the parent of 2 elementary school students, made formal challenges to the following works: The ABCs of Black History, Cuban Kids, Countries in the News, Cuba, Love to Langston Hughes, the poet, and Gordon's The Hills We Climb. Now, the group Miami Against Fascism says they've combed through Salinas' social media profiles and found evidence of far-right activism, including proof that she attended several rallies of the alt-right white supremacist Proud Boys group. Jamel Hill asked, quote, "Is this the one parent who successfully got Amanda Gorman's poem banned? Will the Miami-Dade School District reverse this decision now that it's surfaced that parent has ties to a white supremacist organization, or does the comfort of a white supremacist matter more?"
So folks, here's the deal, right? Because that's the name of the show. Here's the deal. You can't express anything that's not American and be viewed as being valid. I've said over and over again, Val and Cherelle, that Americanism is a religion by itself. I think Mormonism, and I'm not going to get into talking about people's religious beliefs or anything in detail here, but Mormonism is an extension of that. there was a period of time, and Val can tell you because he's the history professor, called the Great Awakening, when a lot of white Americans went to evangelicalism. They left their Catholicism and their churches and stuff in the 1800s, and they formed these other religions. And one of them was Mormonism. And Mormonism is tied to Americanism. They believed that Jesus was going to come and land in Missouri, and Jerusalem was going to be in Missouri. And they still tell all their followers that to this day. So if you're Mormon, we can talk about that offline. But there's a strain of Americanism, Cherelle, where evangelical people go to church in these big box churches, and they hear from these preachers who tell them that they should be praying for Donald Trump, or they should vote for Donald Trump, or whatever. So let's wrap this up. I'll give you the last word on this one. These evangelical churches have got a lot of people that go there all the time. Now, Val already told you we can't get to these mythical middle people. Can we get to any of these evangelical whites that and some black folks that go to these evangelical churches?
I think it goes back to what Val said, right? Can you get to anybody? I'm sure one or two, but if I'm already on a path and believing that way and seeing that way, it's going to spend a lot more time I'm going to have to take a lot more time to be able to help you see the other side. And it's going to be confusion, and it's going to be arguments. It's going to be all this crazy stuff that we've already seen happening, right? Then just being focused on what is our mission? Who are our people? Where do we need to be talking? Where do we need to be arming ourselves? And I'm not talking weapons. I'm saying arming ourselves with younger people coming up, arming ourselves with the programs that we're displaying in the communities, and helping people that are already on our side. Because then you have those who are just kind of sitting, waiting, and now everybody's arguing. We have to do a better job. Democrats have to do a better job, because the Republicans have done a great job of, even off season of presidential campaigns, of doing a local, those local campaigns, to the state campaigns, to the federal campaigns, and having a long-term vision and view. And I really believe, as Democrats, that hasn't been as much of a focus. I'm not saying it's never been done, but it hasn't been as much as a focus on the long-term view. We've become more reactive than proactive. And so when I hear Val say, don't worry about trying to convince that person, evangelical, I just can't talk today, y'all.
Evangelical.
There you go, evangelical. Something must have run off from that person that doesn't know what his name is. But whether it's that, or whether it's the person that you just talked about that's seeing the aliens and thinking that something's going to come back, if we focus on our priorities, if we focus on the people who are for us, and then we help to train and help people that are coming up behind, that legacy piece, we'll be in a better position, because now we have more people that we can put in the leadership position. We have more people that can run. We have more people that are looking after the things that are not being looked after now, which is why we're banned from books, and we're banned from words that you can say, and banned from things that you can do. And so the question that you asked me, Ed, I don't know. And I don't know if I care to change a mind more so than move things forward and create the table for us even stronger.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap that up. Like we always do before we end, I got to ask what everybody's working on. So I'll start with you, Cherelle. What are you working on? Anything we need to know? Anything we need to be watching out for?
Absolutely. We've got a great event that's coming up on June 15th, and no better person than the one sitting right here today is going to be honored in our 2023 class. It's an inaugural event called Legacy and Leadership. I know I just talked about that, but Legacy and Leadership of impact that African Americans are making in not just the community, but in the world. And Mr. Val Atkinson, we're excited to be able to put him in that class and honor him on that night. And so I'm excited about that. And we're going to impact from that. We'll be able to put a library in a alternative school that provides education to underserved and lower class, I don't want to say lower class, we'll say underprivileged students. And we're excited about that because what we know is a brilliant mind is a brilliant mind. A circumstance is a circumstance, but a brilliant mind is a brilliant mind. And we want to make sure that we're cultivating those brilliant minds to know that there's more out there and there's people that care about them as well. And so creating community around them and the school that's doing that. So that's happening June 15th and in Raleigh, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, you saw all of that scrolling across the screen there. So, and then if you missed any of it scrolling across the screen, stop it, play it back. You'll see it, know how to get in touch and get signed up for that. And we'll also have a link on the description in the website. So Val Atkinson, since I paid them to honor you, what else are you doing this week?
Oh, thank you so much for that, Ed. Well, as I told you earlier and before, I'm about to close out the final steps to the second edition of my second book. It's entitled Distractions, Distortions, Deceptions, and Outright Lies. And of course, we brought it up chronologically. There were a lot of things in there that had to do with things back in the 90s, 80s, and first part of the 21st century. So we brought it up to date to include Dobbs, to include Citizens United, Holder, Shelby v. Holder, and a lot of other court cases that really impact where we are now and why. So it took quite a while because there's many things that's been happening over the last few years since that book has been published. But I would say before the end of the year, we should be, if not out published this second edition, we will be very close to it.
Yeah, there's also, you saw on the screen the information about Val's other books. So if you don't mind, go to Amazon or any procurer of fine reading material and get Val's older editions of his books. And we would appreciate that. So we don't have to take up a collection for Val. You know, folks, I'm working on some stuff. Like I said, you'll be seeing a short doc on the George Floyd 3rd anniversary events that were in Minneapolis. Of course, it was in George Floyd Square and also out at Paisley Park, the home of Prince. So you saw some clips in the middle of this show today, but there's a fuller documentary we're working on. I also encourage people, if you live in the Raleigh area, see about coming to this event too, because it won't only honor Val, but it'll honor some other noted African Americans in the community, and it's for a good cause. It's to raise money to build a library at a school that really needs it, and we're about doing good stuff here. So as I always encourage you to do, go out and do something good for somebody today. That's all we ever ask you to do, and come back next week for another edition of The Deal, and then catch Cherelle and I on Connections on Foxy 107, 104. Have a good day. Bye.